YouTube channel. This is Mr. Charles, and we are doing chapter 9, 10, and 11 in one video. And I know that what Pai is doing now is getting into his zoological knowledge, right? So he is setting the stage for us. Please understand that. He is setting the stage. He is explaining the art of zoology. And I know some of you might find this boring, but it is important for part 2. Okay? Part 2 is when Pai is on the lifeboat with Richard Parker. So in chapter 9, he says that it's important to get animals used to the presence of humans. And how do we do this? How do we make an animal used to the presence of humans? And he says that in the art of this is the idea of flight distance. You must be able to diminish the flight distance between an animal and the enemy in this context. How do you diminish? How do you make the gap smaller between the animal and what it perceives to be an enemy? Okay? If you are able to diminish the flight distance, you are able to get animals used to the presence of humans. So if I have the notes here, it says it is the distance in which animal wants to keep an enemy. Now, different animals, they have different flight distances. Okay, a flight distance is when you spark a reaction. So, for example, the distance between yourself and a lion will be bigger or more, distant compared to the distance between you and a cat, for example. So the cat is used to the presence and therefore will not elicit a flight distance. Okay, so just understand that it's a distance in which an animal will keep you before taking off. Different animals have different flight distances. But how do you diminish this? Pai says there are tools that you need. Tool number 1, it is the knowledge of the animal. You must be knowledgeable about the animal. Number 2, it is the food. Number 3, it is shelter for protection. Okay, and you can also obviously add water there as well. So these are the tools that you need in order to diminish the flight distance. Pai's father, Mr. Santos Patel, was very knowledgeable. He did not have any formal education to become a zoologist, to own a zoo. But remember, previously he worked as a hotel keeper and now he's working as a zookeeper. He did not get any formal training, but it was innate that he developed this skill. Okay, so he was able to determine flight distance for all the animals at the zoo. Okay, chapter 9, understand flight distance. In chapter 10, Pai goes on to say that some animals, they will escape. Okay, and when an animal wants to escape, it is evident that the conditions are unsuitable. Animals, they have habitat needs. So when they're placed in a certain area, there must be certain conditions for them to stay. If the conditions are unsuitable, they are going to escape. They're going to leave. Okay? So for example, if you provide food, water, shelter, protection, there's a high probability that that animal will not escape. That animal will stay because it is benefiting from the condition or from the environment. So this is important because on the lifeboat, Pai is very knowledgeable about this. He provides Richard Parker with food and water and shelter and protection. And subsequently, for a long time, Richard Parker did not leave him. Okay? So just to emphasize that when the conditions are unsuitable, there's a high probability that the animal will escape. It must be suitable. Okay. Then Pi says that even sometimes, even when the conditions are suitable, some animals will try to escape. Even when the conditions are suitable, some animals will try to escape. He calls this a moment of madness. He says all animals have this within them. A moment of madness where they are excited, they just want to explore. He says even humans, we have this element that even though it's unknown, we still have that moment of excitement or madness to explore. I think that's very profound. Then he goes on to say, animals don't escape to somewhere, but from something. Animals don't escape from somewhere, to somewhere, but from something. This speaks to the idea of suitability. The conditions must be conducive for them to stay. Okay, please understand that. Flight distance and the conditions must be suitable for them to stay. Also familiarize yourself with the tools needed to diminish flight distance. So the knowledge, food, shelter, protection, and you can even add love there. If you love animals, they will stay because they can feel the love from you. Okay, in chapter 11, he goes on to give an example of a black leopard that escaped the zoo, and the leopard stayed like for 2 months over 10 weeks in the city. Okay, and they were looking for this black leopard. Eventually, they found the leopard, and then they shot the black leopard. What he's trying to say here is that this animal escaped to fit in. The conditions were unsuitable, and this leopard escaped to fit into society. So sometimes animals, they want to fit in, they want to be part of society. So they're looking to fit in. That's the emphasis there in chapter 11. The last part I find interesting because he says something like, they expected to find, and then they laughed, ha ha ha. Imagine, so what is happening there is that they refer to the two officials, the Japanese officials. So they were looking for Richard Parker in the jungle. Okay, they were looking for Richard Parker because Pi told them the story, and they were looking for Parker. But the problem is Richard Parker is maybe in his head. It's maybe part of his imagination, as some argue. Okay? So he said, imagine, they will never find him. You will never find Richard Parker. I wonder why. Maybe because Parker is part of him. Okay? Something to think about.